I stood in the crowded courtroom, the air thick with tension and the scent of stale coffee clinging to the walls. My heart thudded like a drum in my chest as I faced him. There he was, my husband, once my partner, my confidant, now a man whose very presence felt like a betrayal. The judge's gavel echoed, silencing the room, and I glanced at the faces in the gallery, friends turned into spectators, as if my life was a show for their entertainment. I'd never expected to find myself here, crushed by the weight of his words. "Your Honor," he said, his voice smooth but cold, "I'm filing for divorce due to insurmountable debt. She's a financial burden." The way he pronounced burden sent a shudder through me, a knife twisting in my gut. I wondered how many lies had to be spun to make this moment feel justified for him. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to tear at the fabric of our shared life. But inside, I was a tempest. My mind raced back to the day I first met him, the day my world started transforming into a beautiful dream, only to become a nightmare. It was a warm, golden afternoon, the sun bathing everything in a hue of hope. I had just returned from my mundane office job, the kind where the air always smelled faintly of printer ink and stale snacks. He stood in my tiny living room, a vibrant burst of life. His laughter echoed through the walls, filling every corner, breaking the walls I'd built around myself after a series of dull heartbreaks. "You need to loosen up," he teased, ruffling my hair. "Life's too short to be this boring." His green eyes sparkled and a crooked smile played on his lips. At that moment, I felt electricity course through me, as if he were the missing puzzle piece I never knew I needed. "Maybe you should take me out then," I replied coyly, biting the edge of my lip. Not that I'd ever really been to a place worth going out to. I had always been the responsible one. My life had revolved around dutiful work and minimizing risks. But with him, everything felt different. He tilted his head, that charming grin widening. "How about tonight? I know a little Italian place, authentic cuisine and good wine. I promise not to bore you. No promises in return," I laughed. Little did I know, I had no idea what was coming next as I followed his lead into a whirlwind romance. As I now stood in the courtroom, it all felt like some cruel joke. My mind drifted back to that Italian restaurant, the dim light creating a romantic atmosphere, the smell of garlic and fresh basil wafting throughout. We had toasted our future, the laughter, the optimism. It seemed so genuine. His dreams infiltrated mine, unwound me like a tight spring, lifting me to heights I had long thought unreachable. "Here's to us," he had said, raising his glass. "To our adventures. Nothing will hold us back." I could see now how carefully those moments had been crafted, each smile, each embrace, a tool in his emotional manipulation. We were inseparable, or so I thought. He encouraged me to quit my job, to invest in his business ventures. Slowly, it all unraveled into a web of deceit. My heart sank as I recalled how I had neglected friendships, isolated myself from the people who cared for me. In my new world of luxury, he was all I had, but the luxury wasn't real. The bills piled up, monthly notices lurking like predators. I'd asked him about debt, only to be met with the same laugh as before. The sound that once filled me with joy now dripped with condescension. "Just trust me. I'm working on something big," he had claimed, his confidence a facade. I wanted to believe him, so desperately. Chills whirled in my stomach as I remembered the late nights he spent hidden in his office, expecting me to trust his silence. And yet, here I was, as he threw me to the wolves, painting me as an anchor dragging him down. The judge focused on me, her gaze commanding. "Do you have anything to say?" The words choked in my throat, but fire erupted in my heart. I opened my mouth. I was ready to fight. "I deserve more than this," I shouted, and the courtroom held its breath. I just needed to prove it. Image prompt. A courtroom scene with a young woman in her late 20s, medium-length chestnut hair disheveled, wearing a subdued yet elegant dress, her eyes wide with desperation and fury. A distant figure, her husband stands smugly, clad in an expensive suit, his posture self-assured and dismissive. The atmosphere is tense, filled with spectators' murmurs and the scent of old wood mingling with anxiety. The weeks following that disastrous day in court blurred into one oppressive cloud. Each morning felt heavier than the last, an anchor pressing shame and confusion deep into my chest. I lost track of time, watching the hands of the clock tick by as if they were counting down to my demise. My existence had been reduced to a battlefield where his humiliation was my constant companion. My phone remained silent. Those who I once called friends gradually slipped from my life like grains of sand through my fingers. He had hunted them away. It started slowly, a comment here, a suggestion there, until I believed the lies embedded within my own psyche. "They don't really care about you," he would say, forcing a laugh that rang hollow in my ears. "They're just holding you back from your true potential. Why don't we invite them over for dinner?" I'd proposed one evening, trying to cling on to the remnants of the life I once knew. "What? So they can judge us? So they can see what a failure you are? I want to build an empire with you, and they'll just drag you down." He slammed a fist on the table, making the silverware rattle. "You'll never be happy if you keep these toxic people around." Each argument hummed with a dark resonance, and my heart, weary from effort, succumbed to his manipulation. I held my breath, desperately clinging to his every word, as I slowly sealed off the doors that once welcomed laughter and love. One by one, I let them go, friendships that faded like whispers in the wind. "Remember when we used to hang out with Ellie?" I ventured one day, wiping the remnants of my lunch from my mouth, hoping for even an echo of a spark. He rolled his eyes, the action laced with dismissiveness. "Please, do you really think she wants to see you like this? Living in a run-down apartment while I work 2 jobs? They'll laugh at you behind your back." "No, they're our friends. We're our friends. They don't care about us anymore," he interrupted, the icy tones slicing through my words. "That's the truth, sweetheart. Find a way to accept it." My mouth snapped shut as fear curled in my belly. I thought about Ellie, no longer texting me to meet for coffee. Her caring words now transformed into mere ghostly memories. We'd once stayed up late talking about dreams and futures. I couldn't share it all with him, but it felt as if, with every passing day, my dreams were stifled, crushed under the weight of his twisted reality. Months became years, and my world narrowed into his orbit. Financial embarrassment overshadowed my entire being. I had relinquished my job at his urging, my identity folding in on itself like a poorly constructed house of cards. Anxiety clawed at my insides every time he asked about a bill. "Are you serious?" he said one evening, his laughter ringing out like a swollen tide, the odious sound sloshing against the walls of our home. "You expect me to cover this? You think I'm made of money because you quit your pathetic job?" My heart raced, each beat pounding against my ribs like a frantic drum. "I thought it would give you the time to focus." "Exactly," he exclaimed, stepping closer, looming over me like a shadow. "But instead, you just sit there wallowing in your self-pity. You are the reason we're in debt. If only you'd ever believed in me enough to support me wholeheartedly." My voice trembled. Trying isn't enough," he spat, kneeling into my personal space, his breath hot against my face. "Admit it. You're a burden, and you know it. You're dragging down the future I'm trying to build. I'm working myself to the bone, and where are you? On the couch, binge-watching trash reality shows while I'm out there trying to make a living." The venom in his words carved deep scars into my psyche that wouldn't heal. I stood there, paralyzed under his gaze, feeling small, like an object unworthy of pride or purpose. Somehow, I'd let myself become the villain in my story, the architect of my own misery. Slowly, I became the hollow version of the person I once was, sipping his corrosive brutality with my coffee every morning. My dreams evaporated like morning mist, leaving behind a brittle cascade of regret. I was emotionally and financially shackled, suffocated below the weight of his lies. But there were dark whispers in the recesses of my mind. The sensation of something simmering beneath the surface, a flicker of hope, was still alive somewhere in the chaos. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for me to rise. Image prompt. A young woman in her late 20s, looking drained and weary, her once bright eyes dulled with sorrow. She stands in a sparsely decorated apartment, the grim walls reflecting her isolation. Her hair hangs unstyled, her clothes rumpled, the atmosphere thick with tension, illuminated by the pale light seeping through the curtains. In the background, an imposing figure of a man stands with crossed arms, exuding impatience and disdain, his smirk a mask for deeper control. The days rolled into weeks, each one monotonous and heavy with the burden of despair. As I stood in the kitchen, the sound of the rain pattering against the window sounded like a perpetual countdown to something I couldn't seem to grasp. The hum of the fridge barely filled the silence that enveloped me, filling my mind with thoughts of hopelessness. "Did you pay the electric bill?" he asked one evening, his voice carrying a hint of irritation as he strode into the kitchen, shaking off the rainwater from his umbrella. I felt my heart slip into a lower gear, squeezing like a vice. I thought you were managing that." "Oh, you never learn," he snapped, his tone filled with disdain. "You don't care about our future at all, do you? I'm out there working all day and you can't even be trusted to handle basic things. I'm trying my best. If I'd known I was responsible for it all, maybe if you had a little initiative, you'd see how serious this is." He turned away, leaving the air thick with a suffocating silence, his words echoing in my mind like a sadistic mantra. I flinched, the sting in my chest ever present. I took a deep breath, desperately clinging to the corner of the kitchen counter to steady myself. The rain drummed on the roof above, like a percussive reminder of the storm brewing within me. Days later, as I was tidying up our cluttered living area, I stumbled upon a small envelope tucked deep into the folds of an unwashed blanket on the couch. Its paper felt smooth and weighty in my hand, an unusual contrast to the dreary surroundings. Curiosity crept in, and I peeled it open. To my shock, a receipt slipped out. It was from a store I recognized, an upscale jewelry shop a few blocks away. I could almost smell the expensive perfumes that wafted through its doors, mingling with the richness of freshly polished wood. My stomach twisted into knots. What on earth had he been doing buying jewelry? For who? The receipt detailed a normal day's purchase, an ornate silver bracelet. A memory flickered, igniting a fire deep inside. I couldn't recall him ever mentioning it. "Did you get a gift for me?" I tried to play it cool, but my voice trembled against the surface of the counter, my hands shaking as adrenaline danced beneath my skin. He ripped through the living room like a storm, the crisp smell of freshly ironed clothes trailing behind him. "What are you doing with that?" he barked, his expression sharpening as he zeroed in on the receipt. "Just found it in the couch. Did you forget to tell me something?" I held my breath, internal alarms blaring, every instinct screaming. "What do you think this is your business? I've got my reasons." He said this with a wave of his hand, pacing as if he couldn't contain the moment. "You're always so quick to jump to conclusions. Just ignore it." "Sure, but... I part of me questioned why he was so abrupt in brushing it off. A flicker of uncertainty slithered through me. What was hidden beneath that answer? Is that for someone? A secret? I pressed further, all sense of caution evaporating. He stopped, turning to face me, his eyes narrowing. "You don't want to know the truth. You really don't." His voice dipped into a conspiratorial whisper, venom lacing his words. I stumbled backward, a chill creeping down my spine as I felt the weight of those words hammering against the walls of my mind. I had to remind myself that he'd always been slick with his responses. I folded the receipt and shoved it into my pocket, feeling the physiological proof of something slimy slink into place within my gut. That night, sleep evaded me like a ghost, electricity coursing beneath my skin as I tossed and turned. Each creak of the house beneath my body fueling doubts that sharpened like daggers. I knew I needed to investigate further. I rolled over, turning on my bedside lamp, its dim glow providing minimal comfort. The room held too many shadows, the corners swallowed any semblance of warmth. My fingers brushed against my phone, and I scrolled through messages, looking for something, anything that could point me to the truth. Then I recalled the faintest whisper of a name spoken under his breath on one of those insidious nights. Kathy. The memory tugged uncomfortably at my mind. Was she the recipient of the bracelet? I searched for her number in my memory but came up empty-handed. What if he was hiding more than just gifts? Could he be seeing someone on the side? My intuition screamed louder now, like a fire alarm blaring in my head. I needed to confront him, but each time I prepared to do so, doubt tugged me back. What if I was wrong? As dawn broke through the murky clouds, I steeled myself for the day ahead. The rain had settled overnight, but the storm of uncertainty raged fiercely within me, drowning out every optimistic thought. I resolved to find answers, whatever the cost. But before I could pull myself together, that shadow overtook my mind, the nagging feeling that I was running out of time. Time to find out the truth before he could bury it again. Image prompt. A dimly lit apartment bedroom, filled with shadows and the early morning glow filtering through the curtains. The protagonist, a woman in her late 20s with tousled hair and anxious eyes, sits on the edge of her unmade bed. She holds her phone in one hand, searching for answers, with a crumpled receipt clutched in the other. The tension radiates from her posture, each line on her face marked with determination and fear, revealing her internal struggle amidst the fading night. The air was thick with determination as I slid into my car, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The pathetic echoes of my husband's accusations ricocheted through my mind, but I ignored them. I had a plan now. I was no longer going to sit back and let him dictate my narrative. The receipt burned in my pocket, a reminder that I was on the edge of an abyss of lies. He was hiding something, a truth I needed to uncover. That evening, I decided to follow him. Under the cover of dusk, I maneuvered through the city streets, my heart racing in sync with the rhythm of my breathing. I parked a few blocks from our apartment, my eyes on the entrance of the building, waiting with bated breath. He stepped out at exactly 6:45 p.m., briefcase in hand and a slick charm radiating off him. That familiar smirk twisted my stomach in knots, anger brewing beneath the surface. I started the engine, the vibrations zipping through me like an electrical current. As I trailed behind him, I imagined my heart beating loudly in my ears, sweating under the weight of my own resolve. He made his way through the rain-soaked streets, unaware of the shadow that followed close behind. My mind was a tempest of questions, doubts, and resolutions swirling in whirling patterns. My thoughts were violently interrupted when he pulled into the dimly lit parking lot of a small bar, the neon sign buzzing above, flickering in the rain. My stomach somersaulted. Did I really want to know the truth? But the urgency pushed me forward. I slipped out of the car and took a seat in a dark corner, my heart racing as I eyed the door. The scent of stale beer and cigarette smoke filled the air, thickening the atmosphere. I watched him through the window, his posture exuding an air of confidence as he leaned casually against the bar. A petite figure joined him, Kathy. The same name from my memories now burned like a fire in my mind. I strained to hear their conversation, every subtle laugh of his piercing my heart like a dagger. "Just drink it in, okay? Don't ask too many questions," I heard him say, his voice cloaked in a mocking tone. "I just want to make sure we're on the same page, you know?" Kathy replied, her voice slightly less confident than his, a hint of bewilderment lacing her words. "I don't want any complications. Complications are the last thing you need to worry about." His words dripped with an insidious charm that made my skin crawl. "You do remember your part in all of this, and my generosity. I expect loyalty. That's the arrangement. Loyalty." That word struck me hard, and I gripped the edge of my seat, every muscle tense. This wasn't just a betrayal. It felt like treachery at its core, a painful twisting of everything I thought I knew. My heart raced as my phone buzzed in my pocket, breaking my concentration and casting a shadow over my resolve. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, but finally answered, heart skipping a beat. "Is this Angela?" a gravelly voice queried. "Yes, I'm James, a private investigator. I have information regarding your husband. I think you might want to meet." An hour later, I sat across from James in a dingy diner, the scent of burnt coffee permeating the air. My pulse thrummed as I listened, a curious amalgamation of fear and thrill coursing through me. "He's not who you think he is," James began, his voice low, but I could hear the gravity behind it. "I've been tracking him for a few weeks now. There's too much hidden." "Hidden?" I blinked. "Like what?" James leaned in, shadows casting a network of concern across his face. "Lottery tickets, Angela. He won $50 million 2 months ago." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt as if I were about to tumble backward from the weight of his words. This was unbelievable. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. And there's more. He's connected to a few deals that might raise suspicions concerning money laundering." Panic clenched at my insides. Why would he let me live in this misery and debt, selling me the lie that I was the problem? James shook his head, a pained look flashing across his face. "Because it's about control. He would rather have you dependent, blind to his scheme. I can help you, but you must be ready. We need evidence to expose him." Fear and adrenaline surged. I felt the remnants of my former self flickering back to life. What do I have to do? James slid a small tape recorder across the table. We'll need proof of entrapment. Venomous conversations, snapshots of what he says, anything that can pin him down. I can teach you how to use it, but you have to be willing. I'll do it, I said, my voice firm despite the internal chaos. As I left the diner, purpose surged through me like warm sunlight breaking through storm clouds. With James at my side, I felt the pieces of a plan shaping before me. I would collect secrets, evidence, and police reports. I would gather all the information I needed to unravel the web he had weaved around me. Image prompt: a dimly lit diner filled with shadows, a woman in her late 20s with disheveled hair and a tense expression sitting across from a middle-aged man with a notepad. The scene captures her determination amidst the smell of burnt coffee and stale air, while the man leans in intently, looking serious, and the gravity of their conversation hangs heavy in the atmosphere. The days blurred into each other as I prepared for my confrontation with him and Kathy. I could feel a tremor of excitement and dread intertwining within me. I had gathered my evidence, and with the tape recorder tucked securely in my bag, I felt like I was preparing for a war. I was ready to expose him, to show him that I wouldn't be the victim any longer. As I walked into our darkened apartment, the faint smell of his cologne still lingered in the air, but it was tainted by the bitterness of betrayal. I could hardly differentiate between which scent was comforting and which was suffocating. I had rehearsed this moment over and over in my mind. I wasn't going to be terrified anymore. I approached the living room, my heart racing, knowing he was supposed to be home soon. Suddenly, the door swung open, and he stepped inside, shaking off the rain like a dog. But he was not alone. There she was, Kathy, a coy smile on her face as she turned, her laughter ringing through the air, slicing into my resolve. I swallowed hard, anger bubbling beneath the surface. This was the moment. I could do this. "Angela," he said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," I replied, my voice steady but soft. I glanced over at Kathy, who leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed. She looked amused, an unsettling reaction in the line of fire I was preparing for. "Wow, you're really making this awkward," he said with a chuckle, trying to shrug it off. "Can't this wait?" "Absolutely not," I shot back, steadying my gaze on him. "I know about the lottery ticket. $50 million, right? What else are you hiding?" My voice didn't waver, but my heart raced like a trapped bird seeking a way out. His laughter scratched my nerves. "A lottery ticket? Is that all you have? What are you talking about, Angela?" Kathy snickered. "Honestly, if this is a desperate attempt for attention, it's sad. Just accept your financial burden and move on. He's moving up. Don't you get it?" I retorted, my voice rising in desperation. "You're both playing games? You're living a life of luxury while I'm trapped, paying off bills, and for what? Your ego." His face darkened. "You'll need to calm down," he warned, leaning in close, the smell of rain-soaked fabric and cologne filling my senses. "You're coming off a bit unstable, don't you think?" "Unstable?" My voice cracked, disbelief flashing across my face. "You think I'm unstable for wanting to know the truth? You've turned my life into hell. You're embarrassing yourself," he said coldly, crossing his arms. "You've always had this tendency to exaggerate. Just stop the dramatics, Angela. People are going to think you belong in a psych ward. It's called projection. Look it up." The weight of his words slammed into me, knocking the breath from my lungs. I felt momentarily detached from reality, the walls around me closing in. "You think I'm crazy for wanting to end the lies? For wanting to know how deep your betrayal runs? Am I right? Not only am I unimpressed by this charade, but you also need to remember the position you're in," he continued, his tone cold and frighteningly calm. "You should tread carefully. I've been too generous, and there's only so much I can take. Threatening to expose me when you can barely keep your sanity. It's risky." The flicker of doubt stung as he leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Imagine the consequences of these claims. We both know you're not really in a position to make threats." Kathy stepped forward, looking at me with a patronizing grin. "Honestly, just stop before it gets ugly, Angela. You should let it go. You'll only hurt yourself chasing this fantasy. These wild accusations, the tape, it's embarrassing." "Embarrassing? You think I'm embarrassing?" I felt the heat surge in my cheeks, fury surging through my veins. "Yes, it's embarrassing," she laughed, tossing her hair back like I was a silly, scolded child. You're the one struggling with bills and you're whimpering about a ticket. A trivial detail. Trivial? I took a shaky step back, feeling the reality shift around me. You're dismissing it like it doesn't matter. But the truth is, it's everything. He shoved his hands into his pockets, leaning back against the wall, a smirk etched on his face. We need to rethink your approach. You're coming off as paranoid and desperate. And honestly, it's not a good look. The corners of my vision blurred, the room spinning under the weight of their dismissal. Angry tears pricked at my eyes, but I fought them back, fighting to remain composed. So this is it? You both just sitting here while I'm left to scramble? Kathy laughed. It's cute watching you make threats and acting like you have any real power here. Power. I felt the words echo in my mind and rage boiled beneath the surface, dangerous and bright. You don't get it. I won't stop. I have the proof. What proof? Asked my husband, his earlier amusement fading into open skepticism. Nothing you've said can hold water against what I can destroy. You really have no idea how much leverage I have, Angela. I stood frozen, aware of the chasm of vulnerability opening between us. You think I'm powerless? I have something you don't, I hissed, pulling my phone from my pocket with a steady hand. I'm warning you. Don't make it worse for yourself, he snarled. You're not ready for this. You think you can intimidate me. Do you even understand what could happen if this goes any further? Intimidate? No, I refuse to be intimidated any longer. I felt the tremor of fear underneath my bravado, heart racing as I began to lose my grip on the situation. This is not over. Let's see how far you're willing to push that narrative when I'm through with you. Angela, he threatened, his voice lowering into a sinister whisper before they both advanced toward me, shadows looming over my defiance. For the very air around me constricted. My breath caught in my throat as they surrounded me with a cloud thickening with their overwhelming presence. Their laughter echoed, a chorus of mockery hanging in the air like a dagger ready to strike. Would you really risk everything? Would you really want to be the laughingstock? If you expose me, you will see just how powerful I can be. His eyes narrowed, a flash of menace behind them. Fear twisted tightly within me, swirling like an impending storm. I realized in that moment that I had walked into their trap, their happy little world, and I was way out of my league. Maybe I should have let it go, just for that moment. Maybe I was right. It wasn't the time yet. Anxiety gnawed at my insides. I felt the weight of their threats striving to crush my newfound resolve. Pick your battles wisely, Kathy sneered as they turned to leave, laughter trailing behind them, a dark echo filling the empty space that only hours before had been filled with determination. Image prompt. A dimly lit living room filled with tension. A young woman stands poised, eyes filled with anger and fear, facing her husband and his gleeful accomplice. The man leans casually against the wall, arms folded with a smug smirk, while the woman stands confidently with wild dark curls framing her face. Shadows dance across the faces of all three with a palpable tension hanging in the air, thick with threat and betrayal. As the hours dripped away after that fateful confrontation, dread enveloped me like a heavy fog. My heart pounded incessantly, the beat matching the sound of rain against the windows, each drop a reminder of my impending doom. I found myself sitting on the edge of our bed, a chaotic mix of fear and anger swirling within me, battling for dominance. This could not be the end. I refused to let it. The front door swung open, echoing through the quiet apartment. He strode in, a brimming confidence radiating from him, as if he'd just returned from war victorious. He glanced at me only briefly, a smirk playing on his lips, before abruptly turning to Kathy. Now sitting casually on the couch, her eyes shrouded in amusement. "Everything okay here?" he asked, his tone laced with condescension. Kathy chuckled softly, leaning back into the cushions, as if witnessing a show. "She's just upset. You know, a little too emotional." My breath hitched, eyes narrowing. "Emotional? I'm not emotional. I'm angry," I shot back, the bite in my voice barely masking my panic. "You've been lying to me. You've put us into debt while hiding a fortune." He stiffened, the laughter disappearing from his face. "You think I'm afraid of your empty threats? You're the one with nothing to lose, Angela." "Nothing?" The words spilled from my lips as if the insult burned. "I have everything to lose. Our life, our home, the kids, he scoffed, face contorting with disdain. "You think I'm going to let you drag them down with you? You're done here. I'm filing for divorce. You're better off living under a bridge. Please. I felt the weight of his words crashing against my soul. You can't take them away from me. I'm their mother. That's exactly it, he replied, a dispassionate edge creeping into his voice. You'll be seen as the unstable parent. You think you can win a custody battle with this mess? Panic clutched at my chest. I'd seen the way our kids looked at him, the way they idolized him. I could feel them pulling invisible strings that tethered them to my misery. This isn't fair, I pleaded, my voice breaking, tears threatening to spill. You can't just throw me out and take everything away. Watch me. He stepped closer, looming like a storm cloud. As those words settled, a cold realization washed over me. I stood stripped of my dignity, abandonment swirling like smoke thickening in the air. Each breath was a battle, the taste of defeat souring my mouth. I wished I could just vanish into the shadows, away from their suffocating presence. He turned his back, gesturing for Kathy to leave alongside him. You should pack your things. You've got a day, maybe 2, before I have you evicted. You'll be out on the street before you know it. Evicted? You can't do this, I shouted, desperation clawing for a grip. I have nowhere to go. He shot me a glance over his shoulder, his expression a mix of disdain and amusement. Find a friend to crash with. You knew I could pull the plug at any time. This is your reality now. Each concept felt heavy as a stone in my chest. I had managed to alienate everyone, lost in the swirling chaos of his manipulations. The last threads of my strength frayed with every passing moment, as I felt my solid ground slipping away, leaving me dangling above an abyss. As they stepped through the door, it felt like the last shred of warmth and safety had exited with them, leaving behind shattered remnants of hope. There is nothing left for you here, he called, the door slamming shut behind him, leaving a resounding echo in my ears. It was just me now, alone. The bleakness of our apartment surged, the walls seeming to close in like a predator stalking its prey. I slid down to the floor, the weight of despair crashing over me as I buried my face in my hands. I could hear everything now, the sound of silence, the soft pitter-patter of rain transforming into a tempest. A storm raged within my mind as images of my children flickered through my thoughts. I couldn't imagine losing them, couldn't bear the thought of letting him win. But what choice did I have? Hours turned into a relentless torment, each tick of the clock echoing like a morose countdown. I contemplated every aspect of our shattered lives while the fear and shame tightened their grip around my throat. I was trapped by my own failures and insecurities, and those bars felt tighter than my skin. The echo of his threats continued to reverberate in my mind like a macabre song, every note hanging like a shroud over my future. I glanced around the room, too small and empty, filled with memories that felt like chains binding me. Just then my phone buzzed, a sudden jolt that shattered my stillness. I hesitated, then reached for it, a filtering ray of hope cutting through the shadows clinging to my heart. It was James. Angela. I think I've found more information about your husband. We need to meet. My heart raced with renewed determination. This was my moment. A crack in the shackles, he thought, held me down. I'll be there, I whispered, already imagining the myriad of possibilities unfurling before me like a phoenix rising from the ashes. As I pushed myself off the floor and steadied my resolve, my focus sharpened and fear began to melt away. I wouldn't let him destroy me. Not now, not ever. Image prompt. A dimly lit room filled with shadows and despair as a young woman with disheveled hair and tear-stained cheeks sits on the floor, cradling her phone. Hope twists through the air as she gazes up from the cold ground, eyes glistening with determination, illuminated by a glimpse of light from a nearby window, symbolizing the daily struggle between darkness and the fight for her freedom. The rumble of my heartbeat echoed in my ears as I stepped into the dimly lit diner where I'd arranged to meet James. The smell of greasy fries and burnt coffee filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of clanging plates and murmured conversations. I sank into a booth in the far corner, my hands trembling slightly from a cocktail of anticipation and fear. James arrived moments later, his presence strong and reassuring, even in a casual shirt and jeans. You look like you've seen a ghost, he chuckled as he slid into the seat across from me, his brow furrowed with concern. I might as well have. The last few days have been overwhelming, I confessed, taking a deep breath to steady my racing pulse. But you said you found something about my husband. Yeah. James leaned in, his voice low, matching the shadows of the booth. I've been digging into those lottery winnings and his past. So what I've found goes far deeper than you think. He reached into his bag, pulling out a folder stuffed with papers, the rustle of the pages like a chorus of secrets waiting to be unleashed. What do you mean? What else is there? My stomach knotted as I thought about the evidence he might reveal. Was he in trouble? Let's just say it's worse than you can imagine. I found his name tied to some shady dealings, a lot of money laundering operations. But it's what I found under that layer that really shocked me. He slid a sheet of paper across the table, my eyes darting to the words that promised to change everything. An alias? I read aloud, seeing the name, a man he'd once been, flashed across the document. What does this mean? James reclined slightly, watching my reaction. It means your husband isn't exactly who he says he is. This alias is tied to a series of criminal activities, bank fraud, and even links with the underground gambling scene. It appears he's been running a double life, and something tells me that Lottery Win was a cover-up. A chill ran down my spine. How do you know this? How did you find him? I have my connections, he said, his tone even. But it's not just that. As I dug deeper, I found something even more troubling. There are documents indicating a hidden family children that he's been supporting with this money. All while lying to you. What? My voice rose in disbelief as shock spread through me like ice. He has another family, all this time. But how could he manage to keep that from me? James shook his head, his expression serious but sympathetic. That's the thing about people caught in dual lives. They weave lies so intricately that they begin to believe them themselves. But this isn't just about infidelity. It's about your entire life being built on a foundation of deception. And it gets worse. I felt like the world was crumbling around me. What do you mean worse? What else could there possibly be? I leaned in closer, desperate for clarity, my heart tumbling as if in freefall. James took a breath, his expression hardening. There's more evidence, proof of money siphoned into hidden accounts that don't belong to you or him. His winnings, a mere cover for something larger, something criminal. A lump formed in my throat, suffocating me. So he's been playing me not just in love, but in life. Is this all I am to him? A pawn? Exactly. If you want to go through with this, you need to gather concrete evidence. I can help you, but it won't be easy. We need more than just speculation. We need something substantial. James stared at me, his gaze piercing through the haze of my spiraling thoughts. Tell me what I need to do, I said, determination cutting through the anger and fear. I can set up a surveillance operation. We'll need to catch him in the act, expose his lies, confront him with the truth in public. Witnesses, recordings, all will add weight to your case if you go to court. Public confrontation. That sounds dangerous. It is dangerous, but it's also powerful. Think about it. How do you want to control the narrative? To expose him, you'll need to stand tall and gather proof that isn't just from you. The more people that see him for who he really is, the better. I nodded slowly, visions of my life coursing through my mind. The fear mingling with a hint of newfound strength. Let's do it. I won't let him win. I've kids to think about. I refuse to be erased by his lies. Good, he said, a hint of admiration in his eyes. Let's start planning. I'll text you with the details of the setup, and we'll need to act quickly. Time is crucial if we're going to beat him at his own game. As we discussed further steps, the diner felt warmer, no longer filled with dark memories, but with a burgeoning sense of empowerment. I could almost taste freedom, the sweet, audacious promise of reclaiming my life. Remember, Angela, James said, leaning forward as we wrapped up. Stay sharp. He's not just playing with your life, he's playing with fire. Be ready. I will, I said, reaffirming my determination. The storm brewing within me had shifted from trepidation to fierce resolve. I had finally unearthed not just a secret, but my true strength. Image prompt. A dimly lit diner booth where two figures leaning close, shadows playing across their serious faces. A young woman with determined eyes grips a folder, her hair cascading over her shoulders, while a weathered investigator in casual attire speaks intently across the table. The ambiance is tense, filled with flickering neon lights outside the window, blending the scents of greasy food and possibility, symbolizing the convergence of darkness and resolve. The days passed in muted anguish as I plotted my trap, my stomach often roiling with nerves and uncertainty. I had worked diligently with James, laying plans beneath a hushed veil. My facade of defeat had to remain intact, to play the part of the cornered animal waiting for an opportunity to strike. The evening arrived, the bittersweet taste of revenge swirling in the air. James had arranged a public gathering at a local charity gala. It was a risky move, but one that held promise, an event vibrant with guests, laughter, and the distant sound of clinking glasses, a perfect backdrop for my confrontation. I dressed meticulously that night, donning a navy blue dress that hugged me in all the right places, accentuating my figure while attempting to mask the vulnerability I now felt within. Looking in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself, my gaze reflecting the determination and desperation intertwined in my soul. My makeup was subtly applied, an effort to pull off the image of someone seemingly at peace with her submission. "Angela, you look stunning," Kathy exclaimed, her voice ringing out too cheerfully as she spotted me from across the room. Dressed in a sleek black dress that clung to her body, she radiated confidence, not the kind I craved, but the kind I had lost. "Thanks, Kathy," I replied, attempting an innocent smile while the urge to roll my eyes stormed through me. I covered it with a sip of wine. The sharp bitterness filled my senses, grounding me against the storm that swirled within my core. "Is your date coming?" "Oh, you know him. The ever-so-important husband," she chuckled, flipping her hair over her shoulder in a practiced move. "Business, as always." I nodded, internally preparing myself for the evening ahead. My husband entered soon after, his presence announcing itself like a wave crashing noisily against the shore. The usual swagger radiated from him as he weaved through the guests, the scent of expensive cologne trailing behind him, mingling with the aromas of gourmet food. "Angela," he greeted me, surprise tinged with delight in his voice. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Oh, just thought I'd show my support," I replied, carefully hiding the tension knotted in my chest. He lifted a brow, amusement glimmering in his green eyes. "Well, good to know. Perhaps now you can network a bit. Bet you'll enjoy mingling." "Sure," I replied a bit too flatly for my liking, but I was ready to play my part. With every gaze he offered, every whisper exchanged with Kathy, I could feel the facade solidifying. I had to act defeated, frayed at the edge, an illusion of a woman tethered to her spouse through sheer obligation. The grand ballroom was bustling, chandeliers casting warm light over the elaborate decorations. Layers of gold and silver reflected glimmers of opportunity. I darted over to James, who stood by the drinks table, casually sipping a glass of deep red Merlot, his expression inscrutable. "Everything set?" I asked, nerves eating at the edges of my resolve. He nodded subtly before pressing a small recorder into my palm. The cool weight felt reassuring. "When you confront him, let the tape roll. I'll be positioned near the bar. Just keep him talking." "I can do this," I affirmed, swallowing hard and preparing myself mentally for the moment. As the evening unfurled, laughter filled the air, and I watched as my husband engaged with the guests. He looked relaxed, comfortable in his facade. I felt a flicker of anger attached to the warmth of the room, but remained composed. "Angela," my husband called, his voice cutting through the noise, and I steeled myself, plastering a smile on my face. He beckoned me to join him, Kathy at his side. "Come on, we're making plans for a fundraiser. I'm sure you'll want to help volunteer, right?" "Of course," I said sweetly, leaning into the air he created, feigning interest as much as enthusiasm. "I'm eager to help." As the conversation shifted to future events, I dropped hints about needing time, feigning my internal battle. "Great things take time," I insisted, trailing off for effect. "Time to mend things between us, I mean." I forced a hint of vulnerability, allowing a tremor to slip into my voice. Kathy exchanged knowing glances with my husband as he raised an eyebrow, curiosity flashing across his features. "Sure, Angela, whatever you say, right?" he said with insincerity dripping from every word. "You know I'm flexible, and a good partner deserves support." Support. The word echoed ominously in my mind as I felt the weight of their eyes on me, judging and dismissive. What kind of a partner would ignore what lies beneath? And that was it. I took a breath, preparing the trap. You both have hidden so much, I whispered, just loud enough for them to hear, a shaky hand gripping my glass. But the truth always finds a way. Like that $50 million lottery ticket, perhaps. The room fell momentarily silent. I could practically feel the air stiffening, the uncertainty glimmering just beneath the surface of their personas. He played it cool, a flicker of annoyance breaking through his surface charm. You're grasping at straws, Angela. That's not even relevant in our life. Kathy leaned in. Exactly. What are you trying to prove? Proving loyalty requires trust, doesn't it? Unless, of course, both of you have something else to hide, I taunted, locking eyes with my husband. My heartbeat drumming loudly as the tension spilled over. What are you insinuating? He said, the amusement slowly melting from his expression, revealing the undercurrent of menace waiting to erupt. Insinuating? I chuckled lightly, my facade still wooden yet growing more confident with every exchange. Lies have layers. Let's peel those back, shall we? Kathy scoffed, mimicking her previous tone of superiority, but there was a tremor of anxiety beneath it now. Of your depth, Angela? Just walk away. Why would I walk away when I can expose both of you instead? I stepped forward, the eyes of the room drawing toward us, curious glances playing across unfamiliar faces. The clinking of glasses and muted laughter created a sharp contrast to the charged atmosphere around us. Angela, this isn't the place for this, my husband warned, tension rolling off him in waves now, eyes darkening. Then help me understand why I shouldn't, Robert. I pressed again, invoking the names of our children, pushing harder. Why shouldn't I reveal your betrayal before everyone? I will ruin you if you dare to take this public, he spat, the smile discarded entirely. Why not? Then let's finish this once and for all. You're nothing without your manipulation. The crowd around us buzzed with intrigue, but I held confidence in my heart. The trap was set, and they were walking right into it. I glanced at James near the bar, silently urging me on. His nod was enough to carry me through the moment. Each word exchanged felt like a building block setting up the crescendo of the reveal. The atmosphere thickened as the realization of their predicament dawned upon them. I could almost smell their fear, crisp and bitter amidst the sweet, musky scents wafting from the dining area. I could choose to forgive you, but trust is broken. I let my words hang, anticipation crackling in the air. Or I could destroy everything you've built. What's the choice? I turned back to the room, the energy electric, amplifying the tension that hung heavy around us. There was no pulling back now. Forgive or destroy? I called out, letting my heart pour into the room. Let the crowd decide. Tell me in the comments. Image prompt. A bustling charity gala, the scene is vibrant with guests dressed elegantly. While in the foreground, a young woman stands defiantly, dressed in a stunning navy blue gown, eyes fierce and resolute. At her side, a smug figure in a sleek suit looks condescending, while another woman, similarly dressed, shows a flicker of fear. The room is filled with lively chatter and the scent of fine wine, illuminated chandeliers casting light over a volatile confrontation, hope battling deception. The time had come. The courtroom was packed to the brim with observers, the air thick with anticipation. I took a deep breath, the scent of fresh paint and wood mingling with the underlying odor of anxiety that clung to the atmosphere. Today, I held the power, not him. The once towering figure of my husband now stood on shaky ground. His nefarious web of lies was about to unravel, thread by thread. As I entered with James, I locked eyes with him. My husband, my betrayer, sat there, a mask of confusion plastered on his face. Kathy flanked him, a weak smile attempting to conceal the growing unease in her demeanor. I sensed the tension rippled through the room as I gracefully strode to my designated seat, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Your Honor, I began, the judge's stern demeanor settling over the court like an anchor. I request to introduce new evidence that speaks to a powerful truth in this case. My voice rang clear, steady, so unlike the fearful whispers of the past. Proceed, the judge instructed, a flicker of intrigue lighting her expression. I could almost feel the excitement whip through the gallery behind me. This is not just about an insurmountable debt, as he claims. I gestured toward Robert, my husband, who sat there shifting uncomfortably, his cocky veneer beginning to crack. This is about years of manipulation and deceit. Slowly, I slid a stack of papers across the wooden table separating us. The judge picked them up, the sound of their shuffling echoing in the silence. What is this? Those are financial records detailing a hidden account, one containing more than $50 million from lottery winnings he kept secret from me. I'm here to prove that the constraints he spun around me, his supposed debt, are simply blindfolds to maintain control. I felt electric as the words left my lips. The truth was a sharpened blade, ready to slice through the lies. Is this true? The judge asked, fixing Robert and Kathy with an intense gaze. What? No. That's ludicrous. My husband stammered, his bravado slipping away. Those documents mean nothing. Oh? I countered, letting the coolness of my voice wash over the room. Was that the rationale for keeping another family hidden while you flaunted your wealth? This isn't just about money, Your Honor. This is about trust, about loyalty. The murmurs within the gallery swelled like a tide. Glances exchanged as whispers danced among the crowd. I have a statement from a private investigator, I continued, locking eyes with the judge, attesting to his activities alongside this tape. I barely noticed the tremor of my hand as I pressed play, the sound filling the room. Angela, just stop! You're making a huge mistake! Robert's voice came through, thick with indignation, as he threatened me with accusations of instability. No one will believe you! The room erupted, gasps circling the air like startled doves. I leaned forward, a chilling smile settling on my face. Your Honor, I interjected, do you see how the truth has shifted? Let it be known that it isn't I who have fractured our trust. It's him. Kathy's face blanched, shifting from smug confidence to fear as she registered the decision I had made. This isn't fair, Angela, she shouted, breaking through the chaos in an attempt to claw control back. Don't do this. It's not about fairness, it's about justice, I replied calmly, letting my voice cascade through the tumult. You should have thought of that before you've colluded in his lies. You stupid little girl. It'll all come crashing down. Robert sneered, once again breaking rank. Deep down, I relished the panic swirling in those green eyes. You'll never leave it intact. Facing him, my heart steadying as conviction settled in, I smirked. What you fail to understand is that I have taken control of my story, and I won't allow you to drag me down any longer. The judge's gavel pounded against the table, silencing the room. Order! You will all control yourselves. The dignity of the courtroom felt reassuring. I took a deep breath. I have spent too much time in your shadow. You kept me isolated and chained to your false dreams, but today is the day we set fire to everything you built upon deceit. I demand the fortune owed to me. The tension reached a fever pitch, but I felt ready, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of despair, empowered by my own words. The excitement coursed through my veins, the sense of freedom I had long craved finally igniting. Witnesses took the stand, each one recounting my husband's vindictive manipulation. The tales shimmering through the courtroom as they echoed with a visceral authenticity. And with every confession, I could see his resolve shuddering. The cracks began to spread like wildfire across the facade he had built. The collective gasp of the audience sent me reeling, each breath of disbelief suffusing the walls around me, intensifying the victorious energy that surged. I recalled the tape in its entirety as it looped, the hum of my own strength emanating in the silence. Do you want to see a marriage built on lies burned to the ground? Then fight me now. I challenged, feeling a flicker of power as I stood at the precipice of justice. Each word I spoke felt like vital shards of glass carving through their pure illusion, tearing it to shreds. As I stood there, an unfurling truth coursed through me. Sometimes the universe rewards the brave, the audacious, and I had finally found the courage to embrace my reality for what it truly was, a new beginning. Image prompt: a tense courtroom filled with spectators. A young woman in a sleek navy blue gown stands confidently, eyes ablaze with determination. The atmosphere is electric with emotion as her husband, a handsome man with his confidence waning, sits at the defendant's table, disbelief mingling with fear. Onlookers watch with bated breath, the room fraught with drama, filled with shadows and the lingering scent of anticipation. The judge's gavel poised, ready to restore order as justice looms on the horizon. The dust settled in the courtroom, and as I stepped out for the last time, the bright light of freedom flooded over me. I took a deep breath, the scent of fresh air binding me to reality. Justice had prevailed. Robert's lies had been dragged into the light, and I would not bear the burden of his deception any longer. Months past our court date merged into a blur of relief as the weight of his manipulation lifted from my heart. Robert was embroiled in bankruptcy proceedings. The lavish lifestyle he had flaunted now lay shattered, like glass on the floor after a sudden impact. He was now a shell of the man I once knew, stripped of the power he once wielded over my life. I heard snippets of his downfall through various channels, murmurs of financial ruin, whispers of his trying to escape the consequences of his deceit. "Angela, did you hear?" A concerned friend, Sarah, called me up one day, her voice barely hiding its excitement. "Robert was arrested last night. Apparently they found him at one of his business meetings, an underground gambling ring." I chuckled, a sense of vindication swelling in my chest. "He had it coming, didn't he?" "I always said he had secrets worth uncovering," I said, a sly smile flashing across my face. "Do you think this is the end for him? I can't believe he lost everything." "Not just lost it, but he squandered it," I corrected, my tone now more reflective. "He's nothing without his lies. It was only a matter of time." The sun hung high that day as I strolled through the park, the scent of fresh blossoms mixing with the earthy aroma of damp soil. My heart felt lighter, new possibilities shimmering ahead. The laughter of children played in the background, a colourful reminder of what life could offer. It struck me that I had gained not only my freedom but also the strength to create the path I deserved. No longer bound by false pretenses, I reached out to friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I could feel the warmth of solidarity wrapping around me, each interaction reigniting the glow of my long-forgotten self. "Angela, I'm so glad you're back," Ellie exclaimed over coffee one afternoon. "You've missed so much. And by the way, we all miss you." "I've missed all of you too, but I had to find myself again on my own terms," I replied, tears brimming in my eyes. It felt so surreal to be surrounded by the people who had always cared for me, who never lost faith despite my silence. News of Robert's impending trial made headlines. The laughter I overheard in fragments glimmered with fresh gossip, each report flashing the same verdict: betrayal and dishonor. "His net worth is in the negatives," Sarah exclaimed one day, excited to share the latest scoop. "The lottery ticket, it became his prison sentence." "Sounds fitting," I smirked, shaking my head in disbelief. He thought he could have it all while I languished in misery. In the distance, the echoes of his name became haunting whispers, the shroud of his past winding itself in a tighter coil around him. I imagined the loneliness of his existence, trapped by the very lies he had spun. Each step deeper into his turmoil felt like poetic justice, cementing a chain of consequences he could never escape. Months passed, and his trial date arrived, a spectacle worthy of the crushing end to his empire of deceit. I stood in the courtroom among the spectators and felt strange satisfaction wash over me. As the verdict was read, guilty, I felt my heart swell. The room erupted into a chorus of gasps, the weight of justice finally crashing down on him. He sat with his shoulders slumped, a husk of pride utterly shattered. "You'll pay for this," he hissed at me. Venom dripped from the words, a limp threat shackled to the reality of his downfall. "Look around you, Robert. Your empire has crumbled, and it was your doing," I retorted, my voice steady, the conviction filling me with palpable empowerment. Time passed, and I became engulfed in a joyous routine, embracing every new day with grace. Slowly, I began to rebuild. I took up writing, which had always been a passion, and turned it into a career. With every phrase I penned, I felt fragments of my spirit stitching back together, finally crafting the life I desired. I joined a support group for those like me victims of manipulation and shared my journey. I spoke of strength, resilience, and freedom, while promoting the idea that no one was ever truly alone. With every voice that found solace in mine, I healed further, a continued cycle of empowerment washing over me like a balm. A year later, I found myself at the park again, the same spot where I once felt lost in despair, only now festooned with laughter and love. My children ran wild, their joyous energy filling the air. As I watched them, a serene happiness spread through me, promising endless possibilities ahead. As I reveled in this newfound peace, I heard a voice from behind me. "Angela?" It was Sarah, and I turned to face her, a smile beaming across my face. "Hey, long time no see," I laughed. "I wanted to say I'm proud of you. You've really come back strong, she nodded, her admiration evident in her expression. Thank you, but honestly, it's not over, I replied, newfound conviction glimmering. I think I'll always be working toward growth. It's essential to keep moving. As I bid farewell to my past, I took another deep breath, savoring the aroma of blooming flowers soaring through the air. Life flowed ahead, vibrant with promise, and I remained determined to chase new horizons, empowered by the knowledge that I had reclaimed my story. Asterisk, asterisk, subscribe for more karma. Asterisk, 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 next video teaser. Asterisk, asterisk, she was pregnant and he had no idea. But the moment the test came back positive, she knew she had to confront him. Image prompt: a serene park scene bathed in golden afternoon sunlight. A young mother with a bright smile sits on a bench watching her children play. In the background, friends gather, laughter floating through the air while vibrant flowers bloom around them. The atmosphere is filled with warmth, possibility, and newfound freedom, a vivid contrast to the shadows of the past.